The tea at New York Presbyterian is piping hot. So first, New York Presbyterian has been saying that they can't afford to staff enough nurses for safe patient care. While some interesting numbers have come to light. The New York Nurses Union released this document, and it is New York's highest paid hospital executives and doctors. And two people on that list, New York Presbyterian. In fact, the president and CEO actually makes almost $12 million a year, not including bonuses. Executive VP and COO of New York Presbyterian actually makes over $7 million per year. How is it that you can't afford to give your nurses, like Nicole, who is pregnant and has cancer, you can't afford to give her benefits, but you can afford to pay an almost $12 million salary to your CEO?
The major airlines created the regional industry as a way of lowering cost. They don't want to pay employees, and I don't care whether it's pilots, flight attendants, mechanics, ground help. They wanted to find a way of getting rid of experience. They wanted to find a way of getting rid of that expensive employee, and let's start this new industry and call it the regional industry.
Job opportunities for the kids coming out of high school in this area today are very much lower than they were 10 years ago. There are a lot of people in this community who have families that the father worked 30 or 40 years at the plant, then the son got employed, and the third generation has been employed at some of the plants. And those are gone now. And there's no opportunity for that.
What are those high school kids going to do?
We don't know. We don't know.
I was right about the format this video. Dave East, who is the white guy who, gave his 2 cents on myself and Undead Chronic, and I put his video in the on the community tab. He told me, he wrote a comment underneath one of my videos saying, you need to check out Dave Ramsey's latest video. And I'm like, again? And so I went over there and checked it out. It might as well be a rehash of the other original. What was the title of that video? Something about basically American men being wusses. And, the conversation is primarily directed at white men. Quiet as is kept. I think, black men have had their terrible stereotype for so long that whenever we talk about the job markets and young men not working, and how things are basically entering a critical mass at this point, they're talking about white men, young white men. And the video isn't Dave Ramsey, but it's Ken, who's a Gen Xer. He's like Dave Ramsey's sidekick. And then they had this, I'll just say it, what the other white guys were saying on the page, a diversity hire, which is this black chick that was up there giving her 2 cents. I don't know where she came from. Never seen her before. Just talking like how black people don't even talk. I really wonder who sponsors the Dave Ramsey show. I really do, because it just looks to me like it's just being funded by, the elites who want their slaves back. And the whole conversation was about young men in their and they're not working because of social status, which I know where they got that from. They got it from some article that was written not too long ago. I did see the article about men and them not wanting to work particular jobs because it hurts their social status. And I don't doubt that much of the Andrew Tate and the Kevin Samuels and the what is a high value man, low value man, has definitely, brought this level of awareness, this cultural consciousness across the board in the, from the perspective of men, by and large, that they didn't have a strong influence over that, but it's in conjunction with other things. It's in conjunction with the last, I'd say 10 years of social media and YouTube and, having both young men and women who are making astronomical amounts of money and flaunting lifestyles on social media because, they've basically become a brand unto themselves. Right. And not to mention you have, women who also react to that. And now we have pretty much all women in Western society who only want to date the top, 10 to 20% of men. And we also have a situation of deindustrialization that's been going on since, I'd say, the late 60s, early 70s, and stagnant wages over the last, 40 or 50 years. And so now, when it comes to the new generation of Gen Zers and and even some late millennials, they can't get these young men can't get their lives together. The math ain't mathing. In the 90s, it was go to school, get an education, come out, right? Ignore the debt. Don't worry about it. You'll be able to pay it off. But the wages aren't matching that. Then you had the 2009 financial crisis. Then you had COVID. That shit was shut down for 2 years. And a lot of young men started reevaluating their life in conjunction with all the stuff that was going on social media. Women only want to date 20% of dudes. All this, frustration directed at men, not just from the boomers, but also from women themselves that, everybody's a broke dusty, he needs to buy me diamonds and I need to be in a Lamborghini and, just the ridiculousness of it all. And it's funny how it all comes back down to, because men are lazy and men don't want to work. To me, it's kind of bittersweet watching all this go down because, I'm like, you all are really going to sit up in here and try to do what you've been doing to young black males, but do it to young white males, right? Like society accepts that. They accept shitting on black males. Oh, they're lazy. They don't want to work, right? It had never had anything to do with the fact that, on top of the issue of, discrimination and not getting hired and all that stuff because people are threatened because you're a black male, but also the fact that America has deindustrialized. So many of those jobs, they aren't there, right? So the only path to actually being gainfully employed was to go to college, which a lot of young black men didn't have the family and financial support to do that. They didn't have, boomer parents, who had the resources, or even Gen X parents that had the resources to send them to college. I'm saying pound for pound relative to, many of the white people in the white community who may have gone to college, but yet when they got out, the wages were flat. It was like, hey, I can't, and again, I said this a million times before. I'm like, how do you go from FHA loans, Levittown, Pennsylvania? The house was bought for, I don't know, $10,000, $15,000. And now that same house that's 70 years old is now worth $350,000. And some Gen Xer or some millennial is supposed to go in and buy this old, tired, probably needs a new roof and a new kitchen and a new bathroom and everything else, this 70-year-old house that most of them probably don't even want that house. But I think at this point, most people would be satisfied with a house. But truth be told, it's like, damn, can we get some new houses, even a starter house? Like, it's like there's no such thing. Like a starter house for a Gen Xer or a Zoomer or a Zillennial is, here's this 70-year-old house that needs work. Where, the boomers, their parents, the silent generation, they got brand new houses that were backed by the government with the, FHA loans and, all of those subsidies that were given to John Levitt. And again, the boomers, they do all this bullshit with the zoning because they don't want there to be, new single family unit homes being built. Oh, they'll go for the multi-unit homes because, typically these are the mayors of communities and towns, and they just want a quick way to increase their tax base. But nobody really wants to raise a family and a growing family, in a, either 2-bedroom or 3-bedroom apartment. Quiet as is kept, in a lot of states, if you have a boy and a girl, they have to have separate rooms by the time they get to a certain age. That is law. I think in Michigan that's law. But anyway, this Ramsey video with Ken up there, it couldn't be any more tone deaf than humanly possible. You can't get any more tone deaf. And honestly, I don't even really, I think it's like some fake bullshit. I don't even think that they even fully believe what they're saying out of their mouth because it's so over the top and boomerish. It's just so over the top and takes in no consideration of anything else. And it goes back to what I said, the joke that I always make about, when you talk to white Americans and it's like, why was America attacked on 9/11? And they go, it's because they hate our freedom. They hate who we are as Americans. Like, no. How about 100 years of U.S. foreign policy in the Middle East and, backing and supporting despots like, Saddam Hussein, and who was the guy who's in charge of Egypt, Mubarak. You know what I'm saying? How about that? How about that type of shit? Because, the U.S. is an imperial power that wants to, that controls commerce and the Navy and all this other stuff. I just talked about this in my other video that I haven't uploaded yet about, the whole, all this free trade agreement. Again, and I'll save it for that video, but it's a one-way street. People in China can't afford the goods that are being produced in America. The corporations and the companies just wanted to be able to manufacture cheap goods, cut costs, cut expenses, manufacture those goods over in China and other third world countries where they pay them pennies on the dollar and then import them back into the U.S. without tariffs. That's what happens every time you go to Walmart and every time you go to Harbor Freight. You're buying cheap Chinese made products. And I mean, when I say cheap, I don't mean cheaply made because they definitely have stepped up. I mean, iPhones are made in China. I mean, there's a whole bunch of stuff made in China. Friggin' those of you who like firearms, the Vortex Spitfire and all those red dots, the Sig Romeos, they're all made in China. And you guys are paying, $200-$300 for these red dots to put on your pistols and your AR-15s and stuff like that. So just to use that as a barometer, an example of just how far China has come in terms of its production, but they're still paying those people pennies. The Apple factories got these damn nets in them to prevent people from they get these rural Chinese men to come over. They got the same aspirations and the same dreams and everything else that Americans have. And they live in these rural villages and they go and say, oh, go work in this Apple factory and make the iPhone. And a lot of those young men, they want to delete themselves. They get so depressed that they throw themselves over the damn balconies and they put these nets in there. Go ahead, Google it, search it. You'll find it. They put these nets in there to prevent them from self-deletion. On top of the fact that, I mean, you think the situation is bad in America, they have I think it's 27 million female deficit because of that one child policy shit that they had in China. So their shit is even worse off in terms of, the desperation of young men and then just, let's say, to hell with it, right? That whole, the lie flat thing, let it rot. It's the same thing, But, looking at the whole thing, I'm like, again, like I told y'all white men this. I said this was going to happen. I said they're going to hit you with the same thing they've hit black men with. And like I said, it's bittersweet because all of y'all, when the gravy train was good, all of y'all, you guys were the first ones in line to throw that at some black guy. I know because I've heard it myself. Like I used to tell you, when we used to, my father says the problem with the black community is y'all don't take care of your own shit. That's what the problem is. Y'all need to go and build X, Y, and Z yourself. And then as soon as I said, yep, you're right. We need black supermarkets and black this and black that and blah, blah, blah. That sounds like reverse racism. So there's been a whole bunch of personal responsibility and you just need to work hard and give that white man a firm handshake and he'll recognize how awesome you are and elevate you, in 6 years, like all that stuff. Meanwhile, you can't date, you can't get your life started, you have nothing of freaking value, right? And this only leads to, some of the, I don't want to say perverted shit later, but this is where it leads into like guys that are now graying that are like, I want a 20-year-old, because it took them so long to even remotely get started. That's why you start hearing that type of talk. And then the women, the other women, they're they're in harems now. Where that top 20% of dudes, you always hear these dudes, she's got multiple baby, either multiple baby daddies, you know what I'm saying? Or you get a dude that has multiple baby mamas. Because again, that's all these women sharing only a small portion of dude. If a woman's like, well, hey, if I'm gonna be a baby mama, if I'm gonna be, a single mother, and then throwing all the feminism and independence and everything else like that, I might as well get with a dude that has money and resources. Which only makes the guys that have money and resources even more assholes, because they can do whatever the fuck they want. They don't have to commit to anything. And this is where all the men are dogs and all that other shit comes from for the win, because they're only fucking 20% of the dudes. So they're all having the same experience with the same dudes, the same celebrities, the same athletes, the same, business owners and shit like that. The same thing. And those guys, they're not beholden to shit, because they don't have to get fucking married. They don't have to do anything. They don't have to be well behaved. The market is in their favor. They get bad bitches on deck. And so you get the other guys, they're running around scrambling to get a woman. But see, the thing is like, now guys are like, man, I don't want that. The whole thing that happened in the 70s and the 80s with dudes saying, hey, I'll take a single mother as long as she still looks good, and I'll be a stepdaddy and all that other stuff, right? And we see all that. See, what's so funny about American society is American society loves to like throw its dirty laundry out there, all its messiness on television, and mock it and capitalize on it, and people are making money on it, and yet, it's like, how dare you young men not want to put your head in the guillotine and get decapitated? How dare you? You're weak. You're weak because you don't, you see the landmines. You see the slaughterhouse, you literally are looking at the slaughter. It says slaughterhouse on the outside. And they're like, how dare you don't want to, you need to man up and walk into the slaughterhouse. In my opinion, I'm like, listening to, it goes back, and I played that clip, that Walmart clip, or actually Cap sent me the Walmart clip, but I grabbed that segment, and it's so funny how we zero in right on the most important part. But it's just like that mayor that was like, the guy that asked him the question, he was like, well, what are these high school kids going to do when this, this facility, this plant closes down? And he was like, I don't know. He was like, I don't know. And he was like, and Cap said, he was like, that's exactly why the boomers can't talk any shit. He was like, they would be wise to shut the fuck up, because they set nothing up. They have nothing for these young men. But instead, they sit there and they mock them. None of the opportunities that were there when they were young are here, for young men. And I'm not talking about the gig economy. Yes, we can say that those are opportunities, and you could go off and you could do this and you could do that, right? But it's like, should it be any surprise to Mike Rao why you get young guys that want to be freaking YouTube stars or TikTokers or influencers over going to vocational school? Should it be any surprise? Even the way that you had, like, that just the way that the working man has just been shit on. It already happened in the black community. It happened in the black community in the late 80s when the crack era popped off, and you had 19-year-old drug dealers who were millionaires and had the cars and had the bitches and all that other shit. It already happened in the black community. But now it's a different dynamic in the white community, because white men are members of the dominant society. Right? Or so they think, because they've always thought that, it's all about race and all that Richard Spencer, Jared Taylor bullshit, as opposed to class, where the white elite and oligarchs don't give a fuck about the white working class. And you're going to hear me say this in another video that's much longer than this one I intend for it to be. But anyway, I'm just saying, and like, again, Stokely Carmichael tried to break this down with his, Communist Auto Workers Party. I know that communism word triggers people, but I'm saying, fuck the titles and shit. Listen to the goddamn message. I need to go find that clip. I do have it somewhere, but He's telling y'all, but no, again, it's like white men didn't want to listen. You know what I mean? And so now the chickens have come home to roost, and it's like, you know, I hear y'all, I hear it. You know what I mean? But again, black men, we've been on this shit. We've been having to go through this and experience this and, come home to your girlfriend or your wife with a sad face and all this other shit about how you got fired or, or lost your job because the white boys on the job were fucking with you. And now you all are being hit with that, but in a different way, but the outcome is still the same. However it happens, the outcome is still the same. You're still a white boy, broke, dusty, ain't got no money. You know what I mean? Not enough money to attract any freaking female that wants to be with you, can't start a family. Like, she's looking at you like, where's the stability at? And especially as a white man, this is why the self-deletion is so high. Y'all got nowhere to go. Black men can at least be like racism, white supremacy. We can pull up the redlining, the blockbusting, the urban renewal, the eminent domain, the Jim Crow, the convict leasing, the debt peonage, right? The COINTELPRO. Like, we can pull up all the ways. I mean, I can pull up all the black and white pictures of Klan and the Ku Klux Klan and all type of shit, and be like, look what they did to fuck up our community and fuck up our situation. But as a white man, where do you have to go? You have nowhere to go. And especially when y'all been running around on Fox News with all this personal responsibility talk, right? It's cool, it's funny as hell when you say it against the black people. It's funny as hell when you say it against us. You know what I mean? It's like that saying, ain't no fun when the rabbit has the gun. Yeah, ain't no fun when personal responsibility is pointing at you. And the reality is, this is not about personal responsibility. A gold mine gone bust is that's it. You can't personal responsibility your way out of that. You can't personal responsibility your way out of companies intentionally taking jobs and shipping them overseas to manufacture products for cheaper and then bring them back into the country with no fucking tariffs, because that increases their bottom line. No amount of personal responsibility, no amount of prayer, no amount of white Jesus is going to fix that situation. But y'all run around and you drink the Kool-Aid. And this, again, I don't want to keep taking from my other video, but again, this goes back to Bacon's Rebellion, keeping y'all distracted, focused on race and all this other bullshit. You know what I mean? Like I said, I don't have any real hope that you all are going to snap out of it. Like, you guys are just going to try to find some way to put a Band-Aid on this hemorrhaging wound. And even if you did have a revolution, you would still put yourself first. You wouldn't have this come to Jesus moment and be like, you know what? We're all Americans and we all got to come together and form Voltron, and we got to protect ourselves from the classist elites. You're not going to do that. You're going to sit there and you're going to fuck up whatever white oligarchs get your AR-15s and your gas mask and all that other shit. Fuck some shit up. You know what I mean? And then you'll be right back to the racist stereotype. Yeah, see, and look at the blacks. Went around, blacks never relax. He didn't do nothing. You know what I mean? Y'all be saying that shit. Look at Baltimore. Look at Detroit. See, it's because black men are lazy. And I don't want. You'll be saying the same fucking shit that Dave Ramsey and all these white boomers, these oligarchy type white boomers and elites are saying to you right now. You're gonna go right back to that bullshit, which is why I can kind of feel for you, but at the same time, should I lift a finger? Fuck no. Fuck no. You know what I'm saying? Like, y'all got a whole bunch of proving to black people, before we ever got on board with that shit. Cause it ain't gonna be we're gonna have a revolution. Oh, black guy, will you help us? Oh, and then when the revolution is over, oh, nigga, get to the back of the bus. Fuck that. You know what I mean? Like this shit is, in other words, we've already been existing in a burn down situation. So what do we care if the shit burns down to the ground? What do we care? You know what I mean? And again, and ain't nobody coming to us with any real tangibles. Nobody's coming to us with anything, fair and equitable. They're not. You know what I mean? But I can see, even reading the comments, like, there's still confusion in the ranks amongst white people. I'm like, I guess it has to get worse for y'all in order for y'all to snap out of it. I mean, it's encouraging that, I'm getting emails and messages and comments from white guys that are like, hey, my faith has been shaken. I'm like, oh, welcome, right? Oh, my faith has been shaken, but at the same time, I'm like, nah, y'all got to get a little bit closer to the fire, because you just, oh, I came to the light, after watching your hour-long video. Like, nah, homie, it's gonna take more than that. It's gonna take way more than that. But nah, they're clueless. And at the end of the day, like I said, they don't want to fucking pay you. They don't want to pay. They want their slaves. I see people talking about, they're being replaced. Yeah, replaced with people that they're going to pay less because they don't want to pay you. You like people saying they want to replace. Yeah, why do they want to replace you? Because they don't want to pay you. This is why, again, white supremacy is a goddamn hologram. I'm telling you. It's classism first. If it was really white supremacy, if I was really trying to uphold white supremacy, I would be out here as the evil white red dragon or some shit, the grand wizard. I would be up here making sure that my progeny and my children and that I had this legacy going on, that they, when I die, they got all the resources, and I would create foundations, and I would exclude other minority people and whatnot. I would do everything in my power I wouldn't be giving opportunities to the Chinese. I wouldn't be giving opportunities to the Africans and people in Latin America. I wouldn't be doing that shit. No, I would be on some moo-ha-ha shit, white supremacy all day, and I would make sure that my children and my grandchildren and my great-grandchildren and everybody else is eating. And I would be, and understanding, patriarchy, especially with Christian, spiritual orientation and the way that, gender roles are in the Bible. I would be making sure that young white men were making a substantial amount of money at the collective level, to where the vast majority of them, 80%, could carve out a solid middle class lifestyle. That's what I would be doing. But perhaps, maybe that's not possible, because in my other video, and I talk about this, about, it just being, the middle class shit was only like a 50-year run. End of World War II, up until, no, actually it was a 25-year run, not a 50-year run, 25-year run. The idea has gone longer, but it was really only a 25-year run, 1945 to 1970. I'll get into that in the other video, but I get into the specifics of why I think that was. But the main thing is the fact that the rest of the world had not caught up. The World War II, the rest of the world was demolished. America was one of the few places that not only already had infrastructure, but also was one of the few places that that had the wealth and the resources and didn't get touched by the war, other than Hawaii with Pearl Harbor. And that was a naval base. But during World War II, America's infrastructure went unscathed. So who do you think was set to gain the most after World War II? That's right, America. And that's what happened. And that's where the American dream, really came from. That's where it came from. It didn't come from, this notion. Yes, I know we can talk about, Hollywoodism and the documentary about the Jewish people in films and all that other stuff. Yes, that's an excellent point. They came up with the Christmas songs. They came up with the, Fievel and the American dreams, so to speak, going to America. But that's a different type of American dream. I'm talking about that 1950s Back to the Future, freaking Mr. Salmon, bum 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 bum, Mr. Salmon, boom 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 boom, bring me a dream. Right? I'm talking about that shit. Okay, Back to the Future, jukebox in the corner, at the diner with the checkered floors. Okay, that's what I'm talking about. That only came post-World War II. Before that, remember, America was in what? a depression. 1929, because again, the white elites were fucking around with the dials, with the stock markets and shit, over leveraging shit, right? And they crashed the economy, and then it stayed that way until the United States entered World War II, which actually the United States was reluctant to do so. So, like I said, go watch that documentary, Hollywoodism, if you can find it on YouTube. I'm pretty sure it's on YouTube. Excellent, 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 excellent documentary. But you know, in my opinion, if the boomers keep talking like this, Dave Ramsey and all that shit, like it's going to be another January 6th. But this time it's going to be young armed white men, which is why, in my opinion, they want to have gun control and red flag laws and all this other shit, right? So if y'all plan on doing that, I suggest you pay close attention to the type of shit that you post online. Because some of y'all just out here just like, I'm wrong, and I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do that. And I can guarantee you the feds is watching. So y'all need to watch for that shit. You know what I mean? But I already know. I'm like, okay, you can tell tell young black men, yeah. Like Paul Mooney said, yeah, tell our grandkids, our badass grandkids, tell them to get in the back of the bus. There won't be a bus. And when it comes to white men, yeah, tell them they're lazy. Go ahead, tell them they're lazy. There won't be a capital. Like Undead Chronic said, what did he say? We'll have your heads on the stick by the end of the week. I'm like, yeah, keep fucking around. Keep mocking these young white millennials and Zelensky. Keep fucking around. I'm like, all right. You gonna piss them off to know they're already pissed off. They're already bitchless and pissed off. Can't get their life together. Got sitting there on their phone on social media watching Andrew Tate talk about his Bugatti and how many colors he has it in and shit. Like I'm telling you, I'm like, keep fucking around. You know, it's not gonna go down like you think it's gonna go down. I had a boomer coming to my comment section, you know, just yesterday. You know, he's like, oh, and I'm a veteran and blah blah blah, and I'm sitting there and I'm like, you ignore the fact that there's tons of millennials that were in Fallujah in 2005. I'm like, those aren't the ones that you want to fuck with. You know what I mean? Like, it's like, I'm like, okay. I'm like, you got a whole bunch of, you got 20 years of white boys with PTSD. I'm like, okay. I'm like, keep fucking around. Because they all sitting on YouTube with their AR-15s talking about what they got and, you know, how they don't trust the government and everything. All they got to do is get over their racial bullshit. All they got to do is get over that and realize it's all about the money and realize it's all about class. Oh, and it's curtains. It's curtains for y'all. It's curtains for y'all. Y'all gonna, they motherfuckers gonna drag you out the goddamn house. Keep fucking around. Anyway, that's all I got to say. That's my video. SWP out. Don't forget to comment, share, like, and subscribe.
They give you little bullshit amounts of money for working, wages and so forth, and then they steal all that shit back from you in terms of the way he got his other things set up. His whole credit gimmick society, man, consumer credit, buy shit on credit. He give you a little bit of shit to cool your ass out, and he steal all that shit back with shit called interest, the price of money. Motherfuckers in non-producing, non-existent, industries, motherfuckers who deal with paper. There's a cat who will stand up and say to you, he's in mining. And he sits in an office, man, on the 199th floor in some motherfucking building on Wall Street, and he's in mining. And he has paper, certificates, which are embroidered and shit, stocks, bonds, debentures, obligations, he's in mining. And he's sitting up in Wall Street and his fingernails ain't been dirty in his motherfucking life. He went to Phillips Andover or Exeter. He went to Harvard. He went to Yale. He went to the Wharton School of Business, and he's in mining. And the motherfuckers who deal with intangibles are the motherfuckers who are rewarded in this society. The more abstract and intangible your shit is. Hey, stocks. What is stocks? A stock certificate is evidence of ownership in something that's real. Ownership. He owns and controls and therefore receives, the benefit from. That's what they call profit. He fucking with shit in Bolivia. He fucking with shit in Chile. He's Kennecott. He's Anaconda. He's United Fruit. He's in mining. He's in what? He ain't never in his life produced shit. Investment bankers, stockbrokers, insurance men. It's motherfuckers who don't do nothing. We see that this whole society, man, exists and rests upon workers, and that this whole motherfucking society controlled by this ruling clique is parasitic, vulturistic, cannibalistic, and is sucking and destroying, man, the life of motherfucking workers, and we have to stop it because it's evil.
There's a lot of confusion amongst white people in this country, amongst white workers in this country about who the enemy is. The same contradictions of overproduction, the same contradictions of increasing production are prevalent within the white working class. But because of the immense resources of propaganda, publicity, radio, television, journals, magazines, and so on and so forth, which can be drawn upon, white people tend to get a little bit confused about who the enemy is. If you take a look at, white workers in Flint, for instance, in the automobile industry, who are pretty hard pressed because the Buick plant up there is whipping their ass. And it's whipping their ass about twice as hard today as it was 5 years ago. But who do they think the enemy is? The nigger on the street. Crime in the streets, was the problem. Or black people, moving into our neighborhood, causing housing prices to decline and threatening to rape our wives and daughters, And as a result, you get a cat like George Wallace who comes along, and George Wallace is not the first of the populist fascists in this country. And George Wallace talks about how the big fat cats of Wall Street are messing up the country. It's the little man that's suffering because of, the big, rich financial bears of Wall Street in conjunction and in alliance with the niggers. And the white folks, the white workers tend to buy that shit up. They tend to eat it up. They tend to love it. That's not in Birmingham, Alabama that I'm talking about. That's in Flint, Michigan. As a result of that kind of thing, millions and millions of white workers in this country just don't understand what's going down and end up becoming counter-revolutionary, even though the contradictions which they face every day would say that they should be the most staunch revolutionaries. Black people represent, the most forward and progressive and militant movement inside the plant, which are calling not for, in reality, they ain't calling for the destruction, of, the white working class. The demands which are being presented, are demands which are calling for an uplifting of the working class as a whole. And the actual fact of the matter is that the movement of black workers is a class movement that's calling for a total change in the relationship between workers and owners altogether. And what it's saying is that certainly we don't want all the shitty and lowest paying jobs in the plant. Certainly we don't want to be, most exploited people in the plant, but we aren't calling for anybody to be exploited. We're calling for the elimination of exploitation in the plants. We're calling for the elimination of racism in the plants. We're calling for the elimination of any kind of conditions inside of the plant, which are bad, for the basic, health and enjoyment, of life. We are not calling for the replacement of the black proletariat, with white workers, who happen to be in a higher stage in the ladder. We are not calling for a situation in which white oppressors will be replaced by black oppressors. We are calling for the ending of oppression altogether. Basically the reason that they're racist is because of the fact that they're afraid, that the little bit of niche that they got in society is going to be lost. But ain't nobody been trying to demonstrate to them that rather than being against the black movement and being enemies of the black movement, that they should be in favor of the black movement and supporters of the black movement, because the things that the black movement is doing inside of industry are basically in their interests. The kinds of demands and the kinds of movements, which black people are making inside of the plants are not inimical to the interests of the average white worker.
The major airlines created the regional industry as a way of lowering cost. They don't want to pay employees, and I don't care whether it's pilots, flight attendants, mechanics, ground help. They wanted to find a way of getting rid of experience. They wanted to find a way of getting rid of that expensive employee, and let's start this new industry and call it the regional industry.
80 hours a week and get paid for 20 of it, if we're lucky.
Pilots are paid hourly, and starting pay for first officers is typically $21 an hour.
My first year I made a little over 22,000 gross.
Mm-hmm.
And then you put into the fact that you have, mortgages and rent for a crash pad, student loan payments, car insurance and whatnot. By the time it all got said and done, we were literally starving at the end of the day.
To make ends meet, many pilots choose to commute, living in less expensive communities, far from the base they fly from.
Commuting has always been a part of aviation. But if you're making $16,000 or $18,000 a year and you're commuting, you're sleeping on the Barca lounger and the pilot's lounge. And that's not good, is it?
Let's get the facts out on the table on this, Mile. The average salary for a regional airline captain is $73,000. The average salary for a first officer at a regional airline is about $32,000, $33,000 a year. So
I'm not talking about average. There are some people, as you well know, who make $18,000 to $20,000 a year. We're not talking about average. We're talking about human beings who are flying my grandmother to Buffalo, right? Okay, so there are people there living this life, and it seems as if they're in an untenable position economically.
Absolutely not, because there are many other people who earn less money than that, who work more days in these communities, that can afford it and do it and do it responsibly. I just checked the web this morning. You can get a hotel room at the Newark airport for $50 a night.
Now you see something. Now you see now. You done fucked up, you know that, don't you?
I
see what I'm saying?
I thought...
No, so, you know what I'm saying? That you done fucked up now, you know that, don't you?
Yeah,
No, you done fucked up, don't you? You know it, don't you? No, you done fucked up.
$50 a night, if you're making $20,000 a year, that adds up, doesn't it?
Adds up very quickly. If you have a base salary, roughly $1,200 a month is what you take home. $50 a night for a hotel is going to disappear relatively fast.
And, of course, I don't know if you've ever tried to find a hotel at that rate near Newark, but...
It's most likely not going to be in the safest of neighborhoods.
Low pay and high living costs have created an underground housing market in the airline industry. They're called crash pads. Some regional pilots let us inside their crash pads in a northeastern city if we agreed not to reveal their location.
So there's a margin there of profit. But if you can hold down pilot costs, if you can hold down flight attendant costs, maintenance costs, those carriers make even more money.
You hear that? If you work really hard for Shekel McGoystein at some large company that hates you, if you work for a company that promotes Me Too, if you work at a company that promotes BLM, if you work for a company that decks the halls with rainbow flags every June, you're gonna be part of a community. It's something bigger than yourself. The only thing bigger than yourself working for one of these major corporations is the boomers' retirement check. It's their 401k. I don't give a fuck about your 401k, bro. I don't give a fuck about your profit margins. Why would I give a fuck about a company's profits when at the drop of the hat, they can just fire me, blackball me, cancel me, what have you? Nah. Go ask Enrique. Go ask Jesus. Open up the borders. Get your slaves from down south. I'm not interested. And those slaves from down south, they'll work hard, they'll scratch by a living, and they'll have children in the USA. You know what those children are going to think? They're going to think the same thing American men think today. Why the fuck would I do this? Why the fuck would I do this?
John Deloney would tell you your mental health goes up because your dignity, your autonomy,
that's it.
Your ability to control your environment goes up. There is such a mental illness tie-in.
No question.
Caused by not working.
That's right.
Literally. So this idea that you have not put gravel in the stomach of your kids, they have no grit, means as a parent you suck. And so you mommies need to throw your 25-year-old out of your basement yesterday and put him on the street and teach him to work.
No, man titty Ramsey. You don't want that. See, when young men are enticed by the comfort of pornography and video games, do you know what they're not? They're not violent. If every young man was thrown out on the streets tonight and told to mow work and mow bootstraps, there would be heads on pikes in the Capitol at the end of the week.
Cindy! Get away from her! Lord!
Rise and shine. Happy birthday, by the way. Very nice place you've got here. You really did cash in on everyone else getting foreclosed, didn't you? Today you're gonna make up for that. We'll do exactly what we say, or we will field dress her like a deer. Your kid, too. You're coming with us. No matter what happens, you get yourself to Times Square. Tell Treadway Subject 4 is activated.
The last thing you want is to make young men with nothing to lose, with no potential at owning land, with no potential at having families, struggle. You know what they're going to do? You know what these young men are going to do? Man, we need a place to sleep tonight. Hey, you see that mansion over there? Think of Boomer Ramsey over here. Dave Ramsey. I think that's one of his 3 vacation homes. Nah, that's our vacation home. Let's fucking take it.
This is the day we've been waiting for. Years of training, years of sacrifice. This is for the jobs you streamlined, the debts you collected. This is for the homes you foreclosed on, the bailouts you took. We are the true patriots. It's time for a new balance of power. You may not answer to the government, but you will answer to us. Get him up.
It's just like all these young men with no reason to lose and no families of their own. Let's put them in a position where they either have to be a slave or invoke violence. Boomer, what the? This is typical Boomer mentality. They can't comprehend people breaking the law. They can't comprehend not sending money to Israel. They can't comprehend a revolution.
Boomers, come out and play. Boomers, come out and play. Boomers, come out and play. Boomers, come out and play.
I'd never have a revolution. I got 4 vacation homes. I got 3 muscle cars. I got a 401k and Social Security. I would never go in a revolution. Why would a young man go in a revolution? It won't happen. We just got to tell them my bootstraps. I'm telling you this for your own health and safety, Boomer. Do not put young men in that position. It's not going to end well.
Chinese TV makers vigorously fought the case, including TCL. Tom Hobson was prepared to take on the Chinese, but stunned at whom else he had to fight.
What side did Walmart come down on?
Well, Walmart chose the side of the Chinese. And basically, Walmart spent a lot of time and effort at the International Trade Commission hearings testifying against us and our case.
When I asked a Walmart spokesman, he said he could not address this specific case.
On the question of dumping, does Walmart have a position on dumping cases?
I think we should weigh in if we feel a need, if there is an issue that we see that perhaps needs a perspective from the retail trade ourselves, or if we're asked to.
And do you see Walmart's position weighing in on behalf of the American manufacturers or on behalf of the foreign companies that are supplying you?
I think it has to be a case-by-case basis.
Why would an American company fight American companies and American jobs unless it was for their own profit? I don't understand that. Why would Walmart and other companies actually testify to support jobs in China instead of American jobs unless there was some benefit to them?
Last April, Five Rivers won its case. The International Trade Commission determined that Chinese producers were illegally dumping high-end TVs on the U.S. market. It imposed new import duties, effectively raising Chinese prices and making Five Rivers more competitive.
If you'd had a bad case or you'd lost this case, would you have shut down?
Absolutely. There's no doubt in my mind that if we had lost this case, this factory would not be in business.
But it was already too late for other U.S.-based TV suppliers, like that Thompson plant in Circleville, Ohio. Last May, the plant was finally shut down.
Did Thompson say that it was shutting the plant down because of competition from China?
Exactly. They basically told us that they could buy the glass from their competitors coming out of China cheaper than what we could actually make it for at our plant.
Suddenly, 1,000 workers like Steve Ratcliffe lost the jobs of a lifetime.
You kind of feel like you've been a failure in a way. You worry a lot. Like I said, I worry about whether or not I'll be able to find work with, comparable wages and benefits and just what the future will be.
Job opportunities for the kids coming out of high school in this area today are very much lower than they were 10 years ago. There are a lot of people in this community who have families that the father worked 30 or 40 years at the plant, then the son got employed, and the third generation has been employed at some of the plants. And those are gone now. And there's no opportunity for that.
What are those high school kids going to do?
We don't know. We don't know.
Now you see something. Now you see now. You done fucked up, you know that, don't you?
I
see what I'm saying?
I thought...
No, so, I'm saying that you done fucked up now, you know that, don't you?
Yeah,
No, you done fucked up, don't you? You know it, don't you? No, you done fucked up.
Ironically, it may be Walmart to the rescue. One new job opportunity in Circleville will soon be a new Walmart supercenter that just broke ground on a patch of Ohio farmland right next door to the now vacant Thompson TV plant.
How would you feel about working for Walmart?
I don't know whether I'd really want to work for Walmart or not, to be honest. Walmart's a big contributor as far as bringing in a lot of the foreign products, the cheaper made products and so forth, and quite frankly, that's some of what's going on right now with what put us out of business, is the foreign competition.
And for those who lost jobs at Thompson, Walmart jobs represent a steep cut in pay, almost half of the $15 to $16 an hour they made at Thompson, and a far cry from the pension, health care, and job security benefits long the norm in U.S. industry.
Is Walmart good for America?
If you want these low prices, then you go buy your products from Walmart. But what does that actually do for this country? It's putting people out of work, that's what it's done. And it's lowering our standard of living. That's the bottom line.
Job opportunities for the kids coming out of high school in this area today are very much lower than they were 10 years ago. There are a lot of people in this community who have families that the father worked 30 or 40 years at the plant, then the son got employed, and the third generation has been employed at some of the plants. And those are gone now. And there's no opportunity for that.
What are those high school kids going to do?
We don't know. We don't know.